Look, I get it. Everyone's sick of dropping $70 on a game that feels like it should have been $20. The reviews are saying 10/10, the trailers look insane, and then you boot it up and realize you've been scammed by marketing again. I was in the same boat, complaining about the price of everything, wondering if any modern game actually justified that premium sticker. So I did something stupid. I bought every major PS5 game that people kept screaming about online. Not to flex, not to collect dust on a shelf, but to figure out which ones are genuinely, legitimately worth your hard-earned money. And after months of playing, replaying, and occasionally rage quitting, I've got my answer. This is the list. 20 PS5 games that don't feel like a ripoff, games that justify the price tag, deliver on their promises, and remind you why you actually love this hobby. Let's get into it.
Spider-Man 2 is everything the first game was, doubled. You're playing as both Peter and Miles, switching between them throughout the story, and each one feels distinct. Peter has the symbiote powers that make him faster and more aggressive, while Miles leans into his Venom abilities and stealth. The web swinging is still the best in any game, smooth, fast, and endlessly satisfying. The story goes dark. Venom is a genuine threat. Peter's struggling with the symbiote's influence, and the stakes feel personal. The boss fights are massive. Kraven is terrifying, Venom is brutal, and the final act is an emotional roller coaster. The side missions are also improved. No more repetitive crimes. These are full storylines, with payoffs that tie into the larger narrative. The map is bigger too. Queens and Brooklyn are added, and the new traversal options like web wings make getting around even faster. The accessibility features are extensive, and the game respects your time with clear objectives and minimal filler. It's a superhero power fantasy done right, and if you loved the first game, this is everything you wanted and more. Absolutely worth full price.
Lies of P is a Souls-like that takes the Pinocchio story and twists it into something dark, gothic, and genuinely unsettling. You're P, a puppet navigating the plague-ridden city of Krat, and the world building is incredible. The Belle Epoque aesthetic mixed with body horror creates this atmosphere that's equal parts beautiful and disturbing. The combat is tight and deliberate. You're managing stamina, learning boss patterns, and the weapon system lets you mix and match handles and blades to create custom builds. The Parade Master boss early on sets the tone, creepy, aggressive, and punishing. Then there's the corrupted Parade Master later, which is somehow even worse. Every encounter demands focus. The lying mechanic adds a narrative layer. You're choosing whether to tell the truth or lie in key moments, and those choices affect the story's outcome. It's subtle, not heavy-handed, and it actually makes you think about Pinocchio's arc in a new way. For a smaller studio tackling the Souls-like genre, this is an impressive debut. It's hard, atmospheric, and absolutely worth the price if you're into this kind of challenge. Final Fantasy XVI is a full-blown action RPG that ditches turn-based combat for Devil May Cry-style spectacle. You're Clive Rosefield, wielding the power of icons, basically summons that you control directly, and the scale is absurd. The icon battles are kaiju-sized throwdowns where you're dodging meteor showers, countering with your own cosmic attacks, and the whole screen is just explosions and particle effects. The story is darker and more political than recent FF games. It's about war, slavery, and power, and it doesn't pull punches. Clive's journey is personal and tragic, and the supporting cast, especially Jill and Joshua, are genuinely well written. The voice acting is top tier, and the cutscenes are some of the best directed in gaming. The combat is flashy and accessible. You're juggling multiple icon abilities, chaining combos, and the game rewards experimentation. Boss fights are spectacular. Titan, Bahamut, and the final encounter are all-timers. The game is long, like 40+ hours, but it earns that length with consistently high-quality storytelling and set pieces. It's not traditional Final Fantasy, but it's a damn good action game that respects the legacy.
Resident Evil Village is campy horror done right. You're Ethan Winters again, searching for your kidnapped daughter in a village filled with monsters, vampires, and a lichen werewolf are we? The tone shifts wildly. One moment you're creeping through Beneviento's nightmare dollhouse, the next you're gunning down hordes in Heisenberg's factory. It's messy in the best way, and it never takes itself too seriously. Lady Dimitrescu's castle is the early highlight. You're being hunted through opulent halls by a 9-foot vampire lady and her daughters, and the tension is real. Then there's the Beneviento section, which ditches combat entirely for pure psychological horror. No spoilers, but it's one of the most unsettling sequences in the entire series. The Duke, the merchant, is also a vibe. He's somehow comforting even in the middle of this nightmare.
The combat is satisfying and varied. Shotguns feel meaty, the sniper rifle makes certain encounters trivial in the best way, and the variety of enemies keeps you switching tactics. The Mercenaries mode adds replayability too. It's not the scariest RE game, but it's one of the most fun, and it respects your time with a tight 10 to 12 hour campaign that doesn't drag.
Gran Turismo 7 is the most polished racing sim on PS5, and it's not even close. You're collecting cars, customizing them, and racing across tracks that are recreated with obsessive attention to detail. The DualSense makes every surface feel different. Gravel vibrates differently than asphalt. Braking has resistance that changes with speed, and you can feel when the tires lose grip. The career mode is massive. You're working your way through licenses, championships, and challenges that teach you racing fundamentals while rewarding you with new cars and tracks. The AI is aggressive but fair, and the difficulty scales naturally as you progress. The photo mode is ridiculous too. You can pause mid-race and capture shots that look like professional automotive photography. The car roster is insane. Hundreds of vehicles, from classic muscle cars to modern supercars to electric hypercars. Each one handles differently, feels distinct, and rewards you for learning its quirks. The game respects car culture in a way that's rare. Ownership feels meaningful, and the progression is satisfying without being grindy. If you're even remotely into racing games, this is essential.
Kena is a gorgeous action-adventure game that punches way above its weight for a debut title. You're Kena, a spirit guide helping lost souls find peace, and the whole game has this Pixar-level visual quality. The forests are lush, the spirit realm is ethereal, and the little rock companions you collect are absurdly cute. They're not just cosmetic either. They help in combat, solve puzzles, and give the game its heart. The combat is tougher than you'd expect. Boss fights demand precision, parrying, dodging, and managing your rod abilities to turn the tide. The corrupted Taro fight is brutal for an early boss, and the later encounters only ramp up from there. It's challenging without being frustrating, and every victory feels earned. The story is simple but effective. It's about grief, letting go, and finding closure. And the game handles those themes with surprising maturity. The spirit sequences are genuinely emotional. And by the end, you're not just completing objectives, you're actually invested in helping these characters move on. For a smaller team's first game, this is an incredible achievement, and it's absolutely worth your time and money.
Guardians of the Galaxy is the biggest surprise on this list. I went in expecting a cash grab Avengers repeat, and instead, I got one of the best narrative-driven games in years. You're Star-Lord, leading the Guardians through a galaxy-threatening crisis, and the banter is genuinely funny. The writing nails each character's voice. Drax's literalism, Rocket's sarcasm, Gamora's intensity. It feels like the team, not some corporate imitation. The decision-making system actually matters. You're constantly choosing how to handle situations, and those choices ripple through the story in meaningful ways. The combat is chaotic but fun. You're directing the team, calling in abilities and coordinating attacks while dodging and shooting yourself. It's not the deepest system, but it works because the spectacle and pacing never let up. The environments are stunning. You're exploring alien worlds, derelict ships, and cosmic anomalies that feel unique and handcrafted. The soundtrack slaps too, licensed 80s hits that sync perfectly with key moments. It's a single-player, story-focused game with no multiplayer, no grind, just a tight 15-hour experience that knows when to end. That alone makes it worth buying.
Stellar Blade is stylish, fast, and unapologetically flashy. You're Eve, fighting to reclaim Earth from these grotesque creatures called Naitibas, and the combat is all about perfect parries and dodges. It feels like a character action game mixed with Souls-like precision. One mistake and you're punished, but nail the timing and you're pulling off combos that look straight out of an anime. The boss fights are the highlight. Each one has distinct attack patterns, environmental mechanics, and phases that force you to adapt. The Abaddon fight alone is a spectacle. Massive scale, shifting arenas, and attacks that demand perfect timing. The world itself is hauntingly beautiful. You're exploring ruined cities overtaken by nature, and the contrast between decay and beauty gives everything this melancholy atmosphere. The game also doesn't overstay its welcome. It's focused, well-paced, and knows exactly what it wants to be. The difficulty options let you tailor the experience, so if you just want the story, you can dial it down, or if you want to suffer, crank it up. For the price, you're getting a complete package with no microtransactions, no life service nonsense, just a solid action game that delivers.
Returnal is punishing, but it's also one of the most addictive games I've ever played. You're Celine, stuck in a time loop on a hostile alien planet, and every death resets your progress. It's a roguelike where the environments shift every run, so you can't just memorize a path. You adapt or die. The difficulty is brutal, but the movement is so smooth and the combat so tight that dying feels like your fault, not the game's. The weapon variety keeps every run fresh. The Hollow Seeker with a portal beam melts enemies. The Electro Pylon Driver sets traps that chain lightning, and every gun has alt-fire modes that feel like mini super weapons. The DualSense integration is incredible too. Every weapon has distinct feedback. Rain sounds through the controller speaker, and the adaptive triggers create resistance that makes shooting feel real. The story is cryptic and atmospheric. You're piecing together Celine's past through audio logs and surreal sequences that blur the line between reality and nightmare. The first time you beat Frike, the game's first major boss, it feels like a genuine accomplishment. Returnal respects your skill and rewards persistence. It's not for everyone, but if you love a challenge, this is essential.
Elden Ring is From Software let loose in an open world, and it's glorious chaos. You're thrown into the lands between with minimal guidance, and the game just says, good luck. The freedom is overwhelming at first. You can go anywhere, fight anything, and die spectacularly to enemies you have no business fighting yet. But that's the beauty of it. You're not locked into a linear path. You're exploring, discovering, and carving your own journey. The Legacy dungeons are where it shines. Stormveil Castle is a masterclass in level design, vertical, interconnected, filled with shortcuts and secrets. Then there's Volcano Manor, Lendel, and the Halley Tree, each one offering hours of exploration and brutal combat. The bosses are unforgettable. Margit humbles you early, Radon is an epic festival of chaos, and Millennia is, well, she's the reason people learn what patience means. The open world never feels empty either. Every corner hides something. A hidden boss, a quest line, a weapon that changes your build entirely. You're constantly stumbling into moments that feel designed just for you. It's long, it's hard, and it demands your full attention. But when you finally beat it, you've experienced something truly special. Easily worth full price and then some.
The Last of Us Part 1 Remake is technically a third release of the same game, and I get why people were skeptical. But this version is the definitive way to experience Joel and Ellie's story. The visual overhaul is insane. Facial animations are so detailed that you can read every micro-expression. Environments feel more grounded and lived in, and the performance is buttery smooth. The infected encounters still hold up. Clickers are terrifying in close quarters, and the bloater fights remain some of the most intense moments in gaming. But it's the quiet moments that stick with you. Conversations during long walks, the giraffe scene, the winter section with Ellie. The remake doesn't change the story, but it enhances every emotional beat with better tech and refined gameplay. The accessibility options are also top tier, making the game playable for people who couldn't experience it before. If you've already played this twice, maybe skip it. But if you're new to the series or haven't touched it since PS3, this is absolutely worth it. The story still hits, the gameplay still works, and the presentation is next-gen all the way.
Demon's Souls was the game that made me understand why people love From Software. It's punishing, sure, but it's never unfair. Every death teaches you something: enemy placements, attack patterns, environmental hazards. The remake takes the original's brutal design and wraps it in visuals that are straight up jaw-dropping. Boletaria looks like a living painting, and the atmosphere is so oppressive that even safe areas don't feel completely safe. The boss fights are legendary. Flame Lurker is this relentless demon that forces you to learn spacing and stamina management, or die trying. Tower Knight is a massive spectacle where you're chipping away at his ankles while dodging ballista fire from above. And Maiden Estrella? That fight hits different emotionally. It's not just about winning, it's about questioning why you're even there. The loading times on PS5 are almost instant, which changes how death feels. You're not sitting through long waits, you're back in it immediately, learning, adapting. It's hard, but it's fair, and when you finally beat a section that's been walling you for hours, the dopamine rush is real. For anyone who's never tried a Souls game, this is the perfect entry point.
Ghost of Tsushima is one of those games that feels like a playable samurai film. You're Jin Sakai, fighting to liberate your island from Mongol invaders, and the entire experience is soaked in atmosphere. The wind guides you instead of waypoints. The duels are intimate one-on-one standoffs where timing is everything, and every combat encounter has this deliberate, weighty feel that makes you think before you strike. The standoffs are iconic. You're standing face to face with enemies, waiting for the perfect moment to draw your blade. And when you do, it's over in seconds. It's simple but so satisfying, and it never gets old. Then there are the Mongol camps, where you can ghost your way through with stealth or go loud with a full frontal assault. Both approaches feel equally valid, and the game rewards you for mixing it up. The director's cut adds Iki Island, which brings a darker, more personal story and some genuinely challenging combat encounters. The art direction is stunning. Golden fields, red leaves, and misty forests that look like they were pulled straight from a Kurosawa film. It's beautiful, brutal, and absolutely worth the investment if you somehow haven't played it yet.
Forbidden West takes everything the first game did and scales it up without losing focus. Aloy's Journey West introduces new tribes, new machines, and a world that feels more alive than Zero Dawn ever managed. The underwater exploration alone is a game changer. Swimming through submerged ruins while Sunwings patrol above and Snapmaw circle below creates this layered tension that keeps you on edge. The machine combat is still the highlight. Fighting a Tremor Tusk feels like taking down a walking fortress. You're targeting weak points, dodging charges, and using the environment to your advantage. Then there's the Slitherfang, this massive serpent machine that coils and strikes with terrifying speed. Every encounter feels like a puzzle where brute force isn't enough. You need strategy, preparation, and quick reflexes. The story gets heavier this time around. Aloy's dealing with extinction-level threats, personal loss, and the weight of being the only one who can fix everything. It's a lot, and the game doesn't shy away from the emotional toll. The side quests are also genuinely good, full storylines with actual characters, not just fetch quests. It's long, sure, but it earns that length by staying engaging from start to finish.
Astrobot is pure, unfiltered joy. It's a 3D platformer that feels like a love letter to gaming itself, packed with references to PlayStation history while still being its own thing. The DualSense integration here is next level. You feel raindrops hitting the controller, wind blowing through the speaker, and every action has this tactile feedback that makes you feel connected to Astro in a way most games don't even attempt. The level design is brilliant. Every stage introduces new mechanics, new ideas, and never overstays its welcome. You're using the controller in creative ways, tilting to balance across beams, blowing into the mic to spin fans, pulling cables with the triggers. It sounds gimmicky on paper, but in practice, it's genius. The boss fights are playful and inventive, and the whole game radiates this positive energy that's impossible not to smile at. It's family-friendly without being boring, accessible without being shallow. Whether you're collecting every bot or just cruising through the story, it's one of those games that reminds you why you fell in love with gaming in the first place. And honestly, that's worth every penny.
Helldivers 2 is chaos in the best possible way. It's a co-op shooter where you're dropping onto planets with your squad, completing objectives, and calling in airstrikes that are just as likely to kill your teammates as the enemy. Friendly fire is always on, and that's the point. The game thrives on moments where your buddy accidentally calls in an orbital strike on your position, and instead of rage quitting, you're all laughing because it's that kind of game. The mission variety keeps things fresh. One match, you're defending a base against waves of bugs. The next, you're extracting civilians while dodging laser fire from robot armies. The weapons feel punchy, the explosions are massive, and the DualSense feedback makes every shot land with weight. It's also one of those rare live service games that doesn't feel predatory. New content drops regularly, and the grind never feels like a chore. The community aspect is huge too. Helldivers 2 works because you're in it together, and even failed missions feel fun when everyone's coordinating and improvising. For the price, you're getting a game that rewards teamwork, laughs at perfection, and keeps you coming back because every session feels different.
Sifu is brutal, and it doesn't apologize for it. You're on a revenge quest through 5 levels, but here's the twist. Every time you die, you age. Die too many times, and you're done, permanently. It's a roguelike where death has actual weight, and that tension makes every encounter feel like it matters. The combat is some of the best hand-to-hand action I've ever played. It's all about timing, reading animations, and knowing when to parry versus when to dodge. You're not some overpowered warrior. You're learning, adapting, and slowly mastering each arena through sheer repetition. The club level alone is legendary. One continuous sequence, no cuts, just you fighting through an entire nightclub while the music pulses and the environment reacts. Then there's the museum level, where you're weaving between ancient artifacts and modern exhibits, each fight feeling like a choreographed martial arts film.
The aging mechanic forces you to improve because you can't brute force your way through. By the time you finally beat it, you feel like you've earned something real. And at this price point, it respects your time and your skill in equal measure. Stray is a game where you play as a cat, and somehow that's all it needed to be. You're navigating this gorgeous dystopian cyberpunk city as a stray trying to find your way home. And the world building is so rich that you don't need a single line of human dialogue to understand what happened here. The environments tell the story. Abandoned apartments, neon-soaked streets, robots living out routines they barely remember. The cat physics are perfect. You knock things off shelves because you can. You scratch carpets, curl up in cozy spots, and meow at NPCs who react with genuine affection. It's not just cute, it's immersive in a way that feels completely unique. Then there are moments like the Zerk chase sequences, where the game shifts into genuine tension as you're sprinting through darkness with these creepy little parasites swarming behind you. It's short, yeah, maybe 4 or 5 hours, but it's also one of those games you'll think about long after you finish it. The ending hits harder than you expect, and the journey is so tightly crafted that nothing feels wasted. For a smaller studio, this is a masterclass in atmosphere and restraint.
Hi-Fi Rush is proof that not every great game needs to be some massive open-world epic. It's a rhythm action game where literally everything syncs to the beat. Your attacks, enemy movements, environmental hazards, the entire world pulses with the music. At first, it feels gimmicky, but 5 minutes in, you realize this is one of the tightest combat systems you've ever played. The boss fights are where it shines. You're dodging, parrying, and comboing to the rhythm, while the soundtrack escalates into this explosive finale. And when you land that perfect sequence, it feels like you choreographed the whole thing yourself. The game never punishes you for not being a rhythm genius either. It's accessible, but still rewarding when you nail it. And the art style? Chef's kiss. It's got this cel-shaded comic book energy that makes every frame look like it belongs on a poster. The humor is goofy without being annoying, and the story knows exactly when to get out of its own way. For the price, you're getting pure, concentrated fun with zero filler. That's rare these days.
This is the first game that made me feel like I actually bought a PS5 for a reason. Rift Apart doesn't waste your time with slow burns or cautious pacing. It throws you into dimension-hopping chaos from minute one, and the rifts themselves aren't just a gimmick. You're mid-combat, things are getting messy, and suddenly you rift through a portal into a completely different world with zero loading. It hits different when you realize the PS5 is doing something your PS4 literally couldn't. The weapons are ridiculous in the best way. The topiary sprinkler turns enemies into plants, the Negatron collider feels like you're wielding a black hole, and every gun has this satisfying weight and feedback that makes you want to experiment. Then there's Rivet, the new protagonist who somehow matches Ratchet's energy while carving out her own identity. Her story with Kit is genuinely emotional, and by the end, you're not just invested in saving dimensions, you actually care about these characters. The only real flaw, it's not the longest game, but honestly, I'd rather have a tight 10 hours than a bloated 40. Every level feels purposeful, every set piece is memorable, and when the credits roll, you're not exhausted, you're satisfied. That's worth full price.
So there's the list. 20 games that actually justify that $70 price tag, or close to it. These aren't perfect games, nothing is, but they're the ones that made me glad I bought them instead of regretful. I'm sure I missed some of your favorites. Maybe you're screaming about a game I didn't include, and honestly, that's fair. Drop your recommendations in the comments. I'm always looking for the next game that's actually worth the money. And look, I know this list probably just added 10 more games to your backlog. My partner's already giving me the look every time a new package shows up. But if this video helped you avoid even one overpriced disappointment and pointed you towards something genuinely great instead, worth it. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe. I'm just trying to help you spend your money on games that don't feel like a scam. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.